I'm your host, Michael Simeone. You're listening to the SP Streamer Podcast, which is part of the Fantrax and FantraxHQ.com family. I had a weird thought today, Lauren. I was thinking, I don't really like doing intros, to the podcast. Like, I feel like they're kind of dumb.
Okay. Do you think
this hit me on the drive coming home today, and I just decided to just say it just now.
Okay.
Like, isn't it weird that I say you're listening to the SP Streamer Podcast? Like, obviously you know that.
I guess that's true. I mean, it depends. Some people like to have the banter in the beginning, and some people.
Oh no, yeah,
don't.
I like that.
You just go, okay.
The saying.
Oh, like you're just like,
what you're
Captain.
Listening to.
Like, yeah, we know what we're listening to, Michael.
Yeah, I clearly clicked on your podcast to listen to it. I know what podcast I'm listening to.
We know what.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think you're going to change that up in the future then?
I don't know. I feel like, but then would it be weird if like we hit record and we just started talking?
We can play with that. We've got a whole season ahead of us.
Yeah, we can mess with that.
Which is it's around the corner, opening day, so we can just play with it.
So I did see you went on something. It was like a podcast or something. I don't know. You did something recently. What were you on?
What was I on? The Fantasy Pros. The Fantasy Baseball Fest, yes.
Yeah, that was cool. How was that?
That was fun. Yeah, it was fun. I did a segment with Frank Sample, CBS, and we did an ADP war, like who would you rather have, and explain who which player you'd rather have, A or B, and why. And if there was a disagreement, then Joe Pisapia would step in and decide which one, who he agreed with.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was fun. And we actually
did you
didn't really
disagree at all, or
we disagreed like once or twice. So it actually wasn't that big of a deal, but it was fun, and it was a little bit off the cuff. Like we didn't have a show sheet or anything, so it was just kind of like, okay, this player or this player. So you just kind of had to quickly go through, but it was fun, and it was cool. We just had like a 30-minute event, but I think it went on for about 4 hours total. So, yeah. So. But I just had 30 minutes. But it's fun, yeah. And I had never met Frank before, and he was a very nice guy, so it's fun.
Oh yeah, Frank's awesome. Really good host too.
Yeah.
Was every single part of that, was it 4-hour thing? Was it all ADP battles or just your?
No, that was ours. So they had like Bubba was on earlier, and he did like ADP values. Everyone did kind of a different thing, and we just did an ADP war. Yeah.
I was gonna say it'd be kind of cool to have a marathon where you just have all different analysts come on and you just throw out players and see who disagrees. I feel like that'd be interesting. Maybe next year.
Next year.
All right. So on this week's podcast, we are going to talk about our bold predictions. They're going to be fantasy relevant though, because I know some people do bold predictions and they talk about real baseball too. I hope you understood that when I said to Lauren. I probably should have clarified.
Well, wait. You mean like?
So like some people would be like, oh, like the Marlins will win the division.
Oh no! I did all fantasy.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, good. So we're good with that. So we're gonna talk about that. We each brought 10. Hopefully we get to all 10. We'll kind of see. Just kind of discuss that. Thought it'd be a nice little fun podcast, and then we'll probably do one more show before the season starts. I have no idea what's going to be about, but we'll talk about that.
And it may have an intro and it may not.
Yeah, that's something you all will have to find out next week.
Stay tuned.
As if that's something
to the show
really,
that you're listening
I'm
to.
sure you're really going to look forward to. All right, so let's we'll just alternate, Lauren. So let's start off with your first bold prediction.
Okay, well, so my first one is I think that Matt Barnes will have a 30 save season this year. And I think we all know Matt Barnes had a really great first half, kind of collapsed in August of last season. And I, was reading that he was saying, kind of how they used him, kind of wore him down a little bit. He had COVID. And I don't know. I was thinking about this a little bit more, and they gave him, the Red Sox gave him a 2-year contract last year. I think the skills are there. And it comes down to, I think he has a contract for me. And really, I just don't know who else they're going to have. I think that he has a longer leash, than I think I thought earlier in the season. I know people have talked about Garrett Whitlock, but I think Whitlock will just be, I think he'll, kind of be like a high leverage reliever, or kind of play a little bit of a hybrid role, because I think that rotation in Boston is a little bit injury prone. So I'm kind of liking Matt Barnes. And I think that if this is the case, he does get this bulk of steals. He's currently going at ADP 213. And if that's the case, I mean, he will just be, I think, a steal for what's left of this draft season.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he is probably the best option there. I mean, that's obviously why he's going to be the closer, and I agree with you. I think Whitlock is I think he's going to kind of be like a Kopech type thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Like going to get some innings, but then we'll also be in the bullpen a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I like that, especially because I just took him in the Turf League, which is
there you go. Yep.
Yeah, the league with all the analysts. So I just took a shot because I figured, I mean, even if it's only like the first half, kind of like last year, then whatever, I'll find saves after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely like plausible. Like definitely can get 30 saves as long as he pitches well, he'll stay there. So
I think so.
All right. My first one is Miguel Sano is a top 10 first baseman. So obviously we all know he has a ton of power. There's no denying that. So like you don't really have to worry. I mean, I don't really have to defend home runs coming to him. He was basically he's top 5 in virtually every exit velocity metric there is for first base position. So you got the power, which with power will come runs, RBIs. They kind of that lineup is actually pretty decent this year. They're kind of going to compete. Now I've talked about it before. I kind of always felt like Miguel Sano never really cared.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's hard. I just feel like if you watched him, and like I've talked to some people who are Twins fans and they've actually kind of agreed, like they just feel like he's just not, I don't know. He just like never gave a crap basically.
Like super motivated. Or
yeah. And like always came in like out of shape, obviously, all that stuff. So I know everyone talks about this stuff and jokes about it, but Miguel Sano has dropped 25 pounds.
Yeah.
And I think that means that he actually somewhat cares now. So maybe he will try a little more. But in order for him to really take that step forward to become a top 10 first baseman, basically he needs to up that average. Because last season he had a 233 average with a 215 expected batting average. So not good. But he has hit over 245 3 times in his career. And last year, his BABIP was below his career average, leaving some room for improvement. Compared to 2020, he improved his strikeout percentage, his swing strike percentage, his zone contact. So I think he is starting to trend the right way to upping that average. I don't think he's going to hit 280, but I think if he ends up hitting like close to 250, and let's say he stays healthy, hits like 35, maybe 40 bombs, then he's definitely easily going to be a top 10 first baseman.
Yeah, I think that's true. I know that I felt like it was a while ago. You actually were like, he's been working out a little bit. And it's sometimes it's one of those kind of off kind of the stat sheet stuff that you may feel kind of silly about. But I think it's stuff that you can buy into, and it's part of this player's story. And so, I think if part of kind of the narrative is that, he's kind of like, well, he maybe hasn't been the most motivated or whatever, but now he's, for whatever reason, kind of getting into shape and doing whatever. I think that that's something that is completely, viable. And I think that, like you said, you don't have to really defend kind of this. We all know that he has power. And so it's just if he can kind of stay in, longer. And last season was, he played the most games of his career last season. He played 135 games, and you saw 30 home runs out of that. So if he can stay on that field a little bit more, he absolutely has 30 to 40 home run power. So I think that's a good call. I like that call.
Yeah. So hopefully that average ticks up this year.
Yeah.
I have a few shares too. So
I wonder if you're going to get any shares.
I mean, sometimes I forget about him, and then someone takes him, and I get so angry. I'm like, oh my god, how did I forget to target him? All right, who's your second bold prediction?
So my second bold prediction is that Cesar Hernandez will he'll score over 90 runs this season. I'm a big Cesar Hernandez person this year. He's batting leadoff in front of Juan Soto, the newly acquired Nelson Cruz, and Josh Bell. He's coming off a down season where he had a 308 OBP, but I'm kind of buying the bounce back, and so is manager Davey Martinez, because he has a 345 OBP, and he was hit with a 266 BABIP last season, so there was a little bit of unluckiness there. And I actually think saying that he's going to score, 90 runs isn't really that bold, in the sense that he scored at least 84 runs in 3 of the last 4 full seasons. So I think that, he is definitely a little bit more of a kind of 15 team, kind of deeper league play, but I think that you can still use him in 12 team leagues, and he's someone who's probably not going to be drafted. He currently has an ADP of 326, based off of the last 3 weeks. I don't know. I think that he's usable. He has a 270 batting average, so it's not like he's really going to hurt you. And like I said, I like him in front of that lineup. And if he sticks, I think he's easily a 90 plus run guy.
Yeah, I think he's interesting because, it's weird. He stopped running the past 2 years randomly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And kind of started going more towards power.
Mm-hmm.
He went more power last year. But yeah, even if he just hits 15 home runs, and then let's say if he runs a little again, which would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 90 runs is certainly plausible. Projections all put him for a 330 OBP, and he's had an OBP of 350 or higher a bunch of seasons. So, definitely think that's plausible there.
Yeah.
And I think I just took him in Turf League as well.
There you go. And he also, he did hit a career high 21 home runs last season. So, there is some, 20 homer potential there too, depending. So I don't know.
All right. So my second one, I don't have a lot to talk about with this one. But I've said it before, and I know people have always said this every year, but I have never said this. And I have never taken him until this year, because it's a gut feeling. And my gut feeling is that Byron Buxton stays healthy and is a top 10 fantasy player. Obviously,
him? Have you taken him so far this year?
Okay. I did one OC so far, and I reached for him on purpose. I took him in the 3rd round.
All right.
And I do have another share of him somewhere. And yeah. So I definitely am trying to get him. Now, I think, we all know the skill set is really good, right? He can hit for average, right? The power's real. He had a 169 WRC plus last year, 70.9 barrel rate, just like ridiculous power metrics. Obviously he's fast. We all know he can steal bases, so he can contribute in every single category. But the reason why he's not a first rounder is because of health. So I think he stays healthy. I have literally nothing to back that. No one can, right? It's just a matter of a gut feeling. And I think if he is healthy, he's going to be without a doubt a top 10 player.
I think that if he is healthy, that is, I don't really have an issue with that. I have always, and we've talked about this before, I always kind of steer clear of him, just because of that health issue. But I also think, if you've got, a gut feeling, I think that it's, you should get your guys and go and do it. And yes, if he stays in the game, it's like through the roof, kind of game changer stuff. So I do like that. And I like that, you have gone after him, go get your guy,
Yeah, exactly. And I knew he wasn't going to make it back to me. So I was just like, I'm grabbing him. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll take the chance. All right. What is your third bold prediction?
So I feel like it's kind of boring, but I really like Tommy Pham's move to Cincinnati. And I think that he puts up a 25-15 season with the Reds. This isn't necessarily something that's, way off the charts or anything with Pham. He always has that kind of power speed combo. He has an elite plate discipline skills. But I really like the move to Great American Ballpark. I think that will give him a power boost. He had a couple of down seasons in San Diego, but prior to that, when you look at his 2017 through 2019 seasons, he was hitting, 21 homers to, and 23 home runs. And he was, stealing at least, 15 bases. And I don't know so much about, I don't think it's so much necessarily about the stolen bases this season, because I'm not sure that he finds, him, I don't think he'll be hitting at the top of that lineup. I think that's kind of like a Jonathan India, Joey Votto, probably Tyler Naquin territory. So I don't think you'll see necessarily like 20 stolen bases, but I will give him kind of a punch up with power. And, he started to fly off draft boards recently, with the signing. But I think that he's someone that people are kind of forgetting about. And I don't know. I like the power and the speed combo there. So I really like him in Cincinnati.
Yeah, he landed in like the perfect spot for him to have that rebound.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he had in Tampa Bay. I mean, well, there's a mix of Tampa Bay and St. Louis. I mean, he had two 2020 seasons.
Yeah.
No,
before
San Diego. Yeah. He had two 2020 seasons. The other one was 20 and 15. I mean, can't ask for more than that. So, I mean, that's definitely the upside there. I mean, he's 34. He can still have a resurgence, Plenty of guys have been doing that as of late. So,
yeah.
The age curve is definitely different, and I like that.
Right.
All right. This one I got a little, I don't know if it's that crazy bold, but it's pretty bold. I put Isaiah Connor-Falefa will have a better fantasy season than Gleyber Torres.
I like that.
So I know a lot of people are liking Gleyber because of the speed. And yeah, can he do it again? Sure. But I just think it's, speed is not, it's very hard to predict it. So like, I feel like a lot of people are banking on 14 bags when I just don't know if I see that happening again. I'm a little more skeptical, so I guess we could see. I think IKF gets playing time, right? You have Josh Donaldson, who I love, but can obviously get hurt. They have, if Gleyber struggles, they're going to put him there. They basically, they're two catchers. You have Higgy and the other guy they just got,
Ryan, like
properly.
Yeah.
And like, if they're not performing, like, can they throw him there a couple times? Sure. And this is all if DJ LeMahieu is starting, which it would blow my mind if they didn't start him. But I think they're going to really move a lot of pieces around, right? It's definitely an injury-prone team, so I think he's going to find the PAs to kind of match Gleyber Torres. And if you line up their projections, right, they're basically identical with IKF having better average, more steals, but he's lacking in power, whereas Gleyber, they're projecting for 20 home runs, which I'm a bit surprised with because last year at a 5.4 barrels per PA, which ranked 89th in the league behind Hunter Dozier and Alex Verdugo. His exit velocity per fly ball line drive sat at 92 miles an hour, which ranked 108th in the league behind Kyle Farmer. So I just think if we don't see Gleyber Torres' power come back and say he only puts up like 9 to 10 home runs again, right, then IKF is going to be better than him in basically every category except power, and he's going to be close enough where I think that he's going to be worth more than Gleyber Torres will be. So I think it's a little bold, but I think it's something that you could definitely see happen.
I like the call. I almost did an IKF bold prediction. I really like him, and I think that I don't know. I feel like he's kind of undervalued a little bit. I think people are just like, oh, well, he just has speed and he doesn't really bring you any power. He could push 10. That's probably unlikely. I think you're looking at like 7 to 8 home runs, but I think you're getting speed. I think, but it's coming also with a very good average or a decent average. And I think that he is going to be playing everywhere in New York. And I think that it sounds strange to say, but I do think that, he's been playing almost exclusively the shortstop position, in spring training. And it is DJ LeMahieu that they have kind of as like the utility guy going around, which sounds really unheard of, but this is, I think, what we'll be seeing this season. And so I think they really like IKF. And I think one of the things that I'm also really interested in, and I have a couple of shares of him, is that I think I don't think we can write off that he won't see time behind the dish. I think that he can get enough plate appearances there. And that was what was so appealing to him a couple seasons ago, where you could have this, 15 stolen base guy as your catcher. So I really like him. And so I like that call a lot.
Yeah, I remember I grabbed him in Yahoo, my home Yahoo league last year because he was still catcher eligible in Yahoo for some reason where he wasn't anywhere else. Yeah. And it was so worth it because he played every day. Whereas no catcher does that. So it's a big advantage for you.
Yep.
All right. What is your fourth bold prediction?
What is my bold prediction is that, I'm kind of feeling a little bit of a Joe Adele season. I think that he finishes as a top 75 hitter this season. I'm kind of buying into it. I'm kind of surprised by it, but it's a combo of, it's like when we saw him come into the league in 2020, he just really did not play well, right? He had a K rate that was pushing 42%, which obviously was not sustainable, and it just looked ugly. I started last season in AAA, and then the Angels brought him in at the tail end of the season in August, and he finished. He was able to cut his K rate to a palatable 22.9% in 140 plate appearances, and in addition to that, he also, he made kind of improvements with his overall contact and his zone contact rates. So I think that even though that's a small sample size from last season, which was 35 games, he's really been kind of rocking out in spring training. He's also made a mechanic switch to swing or something with a high leg to a low leg, I think. And he's just kind of killing it. And I'm buying it. I'm going to, I think that sometimes, us in the fantasy industry, if someone doesn't perform right away, I think we're really quick to kind of kick him to the curb a little bit. And so I think there are improvements here with Adele. I like them. He's playing well in super spring training. And I think that he could have a big season. I mean, Steamer 600 kind of has him at 27 home runs, 8 stolen bases, and a 240 batting average. The average isn't that great, but he does have kind of some swing and miss issues. But I'm buying into the post hype sleeper with Joe Adele, so I think he finishes as a top 75 hitter.
Yeah, I mean, he had a ton of raw power basically coming up, and he came up pretty quick. And yeah, he's been that guy, that prospect that, like you said, everyone kind of forgets, and a lot of good fantasy players target those people because. They were a good prospect for a reason. If they pan out based on their ADP, then, it really works out for you. And if it doesn't, then it's not a big deal because everyone's forgetting about them anyway. Yeah. There has been a lot of talk about him recently. So, you definitely have other people.
Are you buying in at all or not really? I don't have any shares of him, I will say, but.
Yeah. See, the problem is I don't know. I'm not that adverse to prospects where I don't know. I don't know his true talent. I mean, I can only go off what I've seen. I mean, he definitely was better last year. He doubled his barrel rate and stuff like that. So obviously the guy has potential. So yeah, I mean, I do like plays like that where people just kind of forget about these guys. So I think it's a good call. Yeah. My fourth one is something I've been talking about all the time too. And it's just Josh Donaldson, and I have him as a top 5 third baseman. Yep. It is kind of bold though when you think about it because there's actually some really good third basemen out there, and he'd really have to propel himself to make it to that top 5 range. But I've talked about it. Yeah, the injury concerns are there. He's playing for the Yankees now, but I mean, last year at the position, he was top 5 in barrel rate, WRC plus, ISO, max EV per fly ball. Just a very, very good bat. Hits the crap out of the ball. Always makes solid contact. Again, it's just about the injuries. So if he stays healthy, he's going to get there. I mean, I don't think he's going to be his 2019 form, but in 2019, the last time he had over 600 plate appearances, he had 37 home runs, 96 runs, 94 RBIs, and a 259 average. So, I mean, if everything goes right for him and he stays healthy and gets all those plate appearances, I think this has a shot at becoming true.
I think that's true. I I think that, you've talked about Josh Donaldson a lot, and rightly so. I really like him, but I don't really have anything to add to it. But I am also a Josh Donaldson fan, and so I'm with you on this call. I like it.
All right, cool. All right, what's your number 5?
I will stick with a third baseman, and it is Mike Moustakas, the Moose. I am
Rebound.
I think he's going to hit 40 home runs for the first time in his career. This is my bold prediction.
All right.
We know that he does have power. We just haven't seen it at Great American Ballpark yet. It's like he came over in 2020 and
swing.
That wasn't there. I know. And then he had some injuries last season. So I know some of his numbers went down, but I'm for it. We're not that far removed. He had 38 homers in 2017, 28 in 2018, and 35 in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I have just like a soft spot in my heart for Moose for some reason. The fact I would call him Moose, and I like him. And so I think this is the season that I think he stays on the field. I think that we see him and he's able to harness all the power that he can out of Great American Ballpark. Go Moose.
See, I always kind of have a vendetta against him because my brother-in-law loved him before, I think, coming into 2017, and I kept making fun of him. I was like, "No, he's not good. Like, you're wasting your pick." Like, just constantly.
Yeah.
And then, boom, hits 38 home runs, and I look like an idiot.
Yeah,
not that I knew, not that really metrics really existed back then. But, so I always have a little vendetta against him. But, yeah, obviously he has the power. It's just a great ballpark for him to hit in. It's just like, can he learn to hit the ball again? I mean, why not, though? I mean, I know someone was talking about they grabbed him late. I forgot who. It was a good fantasy player was talking about his main event team, and he took him on his bench and was like, why not? And
he's
it makes
going
sense.
Late enough.
If he rebounds, like, if you're taking him on your bench, like, give him a week or two, see how he looks, and if not, dump him for somebody.
He's not going to cost anything. He's right now the 28th third baseman off the board, so it's just like, okay, you can get rid of him then.
40 home runs would be wild.
40.
I like that.
40.
Okay. I like that. All right. All right. My next one is a catcher that we mentioned once, like months ago, and you actually agree with me on it, Lauren. And that is Manny Pino is fantasy relevant. And
I love Manny Pino.
Basically, it's just because, one, we all know d'Arnaud can't stay on the field. He never has been able to. There should be nothing that will make you think he can. And Pina's the backup there, so he should see time. I have a ton of him in DCs, just as like last round pick, backup catcher. Why not? The reason why I'm saying he could be fantasy relevant is, one, he could get plate appearances. Two, super small sample, and I know he's old, but in the second half of last season, he hit 247 with 8 home runs. His OPS skyrocketed to 892 and a WRC plus of 134. Right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was because he started to lift the ball more. He increased his line drive rate, fly ball rate, and his barrel rate went up because of it. So I think he's, I know he's old, but he's like, screw it. I'm just going to lift the ball and try and get some power under it. And it was starting to work at the end of last year. So I figure, why not? So I don't know what fantasy relevant would really mean. I guess let's just say, I'll change that to Manny Pino will be a top 15 catcher.
I think,
or 12 catcher.
I think that he has the skills, and it comes down to, I am 100% certain that we are going to see him because he's backing up Travis d'Arnaud, who cannot stay on the field. And so I like this. I still think it's a sneaky play because I don't think that most people are on Manny Pino. I think I have him in a DC. I have a share of him in a DC, I think, because it's just like, I just assume that I think I have him as like a third catcher, and I'm like, he's going to come up at some point. So, I like it. I'm with you on this one, Michael.
All right, cool. All right, number 6.
Okay, what is my number 6? Okay, so I'm buying into Stephen Kwan this season as well. I think that he puts up a 2010 season. Now, I think that it's not for certain that he is going to start with the Guardians, but I think that he might. And if he does, I think that he has a really good path to playing time in that Guardians kind of outfield. And I think that it's always a little tricky trying to come up with projections, let alone, I think, bold predictions with players that have really never played in the big leagues before. But one thing I like about him, and it does remind me of Keibert Ruiz, is that he just has such elite kind of plate approach and discipline, and he's never had a strikeout rate above 14.5% in the minors. He's always had double digit walk rates in the minors, except for 1 year. He's a contact hitter. He doesn't chase a lot. I don't know. I think that the risk is there that he doesn't start the season on time, but I think that he will get a lot of bats this season, whether he starts a little bit later or not. And I think the skills are there to put up a solid season once he is there. So I'm that's if there is one rookie that I would put money on this season, it's actually Stephen Kwan. I like him a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the bat X and stuff, they project him for close to 300 plate appearances. So
okay.
They all think he's going to see time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. My 6 is I gotta stop talking about players I constantly talk about. The other ones past this are a little more saucy.
Saucy. Okay.
I mean, this too is, I guess, like, what are the chances? But Sonny Gray finishes as a top 10 starting pitcher.
Ooh, top 10. That's bold. I like it.
Yeah. I've been talking about him even before the move to the Twins.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mainly just because he has such a high strikeout rate and people were forgetting about him. He's definitely moved up since the trade because a lot better situation now. But yeah, I mean, the last 3 seasons, his strikeout rate is at about 28.5%. He also in the last 3 seasons has had an ERA at 3.49. The FIP is 3.57. So I think that all basically shows you that he's a good pitcher, right? I think he's he should be a 3.5 ERA pitcher. Now, how does he become elite, right? I think it's a matter of him, 1, getting some luck, 2, which I think it'll be a lot easier for that to happen in Minnesota with the better defense, better ballpark behind him. And I think for him to get to that elite level to be a top 10 starting pitcher, you have to have kind of seen it before. And we have seen it with Sonny Gray, right? In 2019, he pitched 175 innings with a 2.87 ERA, a 1.08 whip, and 205 strikeouts. So that's top 10 quality right there, especially if, say, he stays healthy or goes a little further into games and that 175 goes to like 190 innings. Like, that is a fantastic pitcher. So he's done it before, has a super deep arsenal. His splits are great. Like, he knows how to attack lefties. He knows how to attack righties by mixing up his pitches. And I just think that he has the skills to do it. I mean, a lot of things are going to have to click for him to do that, to get to like a sub-3 ERA, but he's done it before. So why can't he do it again? Do I think he's going to do that? No, I think he's going to be more so that 3.5 ERA pitcher with a good strikeout rate. But, as a bold prediction, I do think maybe he can replicate that 2019 again and become that top fantasy ace.
I like that. Would you say you think he's a top 10?
10.
Ooh, yeah. Pitcher. See, I think that's like the boldest of all of our bold statements so far. Bold predictions. I think so. Yeah. I like it though. I like Sonny Gray. I remember I really liked him when he was in Oakland, and I think that he does. Like, I know that you were kind of banging the Sonny Gray drum before the trade. And I was kind of with you on it. I see that. I like him. I do. I think 10 is bold though. So I will give you that.
I have the most bold one coming up next.
Okay.
All right. What's your number 7?
So mine, I'll go with another pitcher here. I was looking at my player shares and I was kind of surprised and not surprised because I do like this pitcher, but Dakota Hudson was on 80% of my teams. And my bold prediction is that he's going to lead the Cardinals in wins this season. And, I think that Dakota Hudson's just an intriguing pitcher to me. He's only pitched 249.2 innings since 2018. But in that time, he's never had an ERA above 3.34. He had Tommy John surgery in September of 2020. And so he was coming back from that, last season. Last season, he only played, he only got in 8.2 innings pitched. But it's looking forward to this season. And I think that now he has more recovery time under his belt. I think that the Cardinals will use him. I think he may even be used a little bit more with Jack Flaherty having some arm issues. He's a pitcher that pitches to contact, but he's a ground ball pitcher. He has a career 57.6%. But this works out well for him because he's got the top defense behind him. So I think that this is just a good pairing, him being in St. Louis. I think that he'll get the innings. The NL Central isn't exactly the scariest division. I don't know. There's just something, it's one of these kind of gut things where I've gone, like I said, he's on 80% of my teams. A lot of those are deeper teams. But I'm buying in on him. There's something about it that I like this season.
Yeah, I think he's super interesting. I think it's good that he came back and made 2 appearances last year to kind of prove that was healthy. And I think people kind of forget. I mean, the worry about him, I mean, he's free, so it doesn't matter. But the worry about him was the lack of strikeouts. But I think people forget that his strikeout rate was going up for the 3rd year in a row. And he was starting to throw, I want to say it's a slider more. And yeah, I think he was starting to throw a slide more, and it was becoming a really good pitch. I know he's mainly a ground ball pitcher, but so maybe those strikeouts come. Really good defense behind him, so he can let all the ground balls that he wants, produce all of them.
Yeah.
And I think he's really a solid pitcher to grab, especially in DCs, because he's going to get innings, and he's always pitched of quality. He maybe gets you a 4 ERA, like I'll be fine. But I mean, a good point by you. I mean, his career average ERA for his career is 3.14. I mean,
it's crazy.
And 250 innings.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a small sample. I like that one. All right. So my 7th, which is Super Bowl, is the best Blue Jays starter is Hyunjin Ryu.
No, I know you like him.
Definitely far-fetched, but I kind of try to create a path to get there.
Okay.
Okay. So I decided to look at return value, right? So Ryu's best season in 2019, he had a $23 value in return for fantasy baseball.
Okay.
Jose Barrios' highest ever was $18. So lower than Ryu, right? So in my mind, okay, let's say Barrios does what he always does. Let's say like high 3 ERA, but then let's say we get a killer season from Ryu. Ryu could definitely return more value than him. So that's possible. Okay. Kikuchi, we could push him out of the way. He's got a lot of issues. And as I posted, his velocity is down in spring training still. So I think he could end up being a mess. Alec Manoa, really good season, produced a 3.22 ERA. But to be fair, it did come with what looks like he should be a high 3 ERA pitcher. Obviously he could grow though, but it's his 2nd year. Sophomore slump is a thing. He could easily struggle at times. Maybe offenses start to catch up to him a little bit. So he could definitely struggle a little bit. And ATC projections peg him for a 3.8 ERA with a 1.17 whip. So if that happens, and again, if Ryu has a really good season, then Ryu will be worth more than those 2. So we push aside all 3 except for Kevin Gausman. Don't really have an answer for that part. I will say he's moving to a very tough division. I know Ryu obviously pitches in the same division. Going to be pitching a lot of tough ballparks. What if that split finger finally starts to give away a little bit? What if he doesn't have the feel for it that he's had for so long now? Can he continue to have that feel and be amazing? Sure. But what if he doesn't and he takes a step back? And like I said, if we see a ridiculous Ryu season again, then maybe he can return more value than all of them. So in 2019, he pushed a 2.32 ERA in 182 innings, right, Ryu? And he had a low whip, and the strikeouts obviously aren't really going to be there. But if he could somehow replicate that one more time, I mean, we've seen his upside. He has had several seasons where he's pitched a sub 2 ERA. There's been like 2 full seasons where he's done it. He's pitched a sub 3.5 ERA 4 times. So I just think if Ryu comes back to what he was Now that they're back in Toronto, he could see his family. Maybe he could pitch well again. And those other pitchers all kind of take a step back, then I think it's possible.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I had a bunch of kind of like Ryu shares last year, so it kind of killed me a little bit. But I've bought back in this season, and because I just think there's too much of a track record there. And I know that you've talked about this, a couple of times as well. Is that he also just kind of off the baseball page, but just as a human and a person, and not seeing his family, some of that stuff could take a toll on him as well. And he's fallen so far this season as well. So I think that bounce back and that return kind of on investment is something you can totally, I totally get that. I like that one.
All right. Number 8.
I'm in. Number 8. Oh, okay. So I think I'm wearing if you're not watching and you're just listening, I am wearing a Kansas City Royals hoodie right now. So I'm going to go all in on Nicky Lopez. I'm going to say Nicky Lopez will steal 30 bases this season. And he stole 22 bases last season. It came with like a 300 average, which will most likely regress a little bit, but I don't think it will be super crazy low. I think that what I like about him is that when you look at a lot of his kind of plate discipline, he's got a career 91.1 zone contact, an 85.6 contact rate, and a career 26.5 chase rate. All of these are well above league average. He's got a great glove. I think that his glove will keep him in the lineup. I think the question really just comes down to where is he going to be hitting in that lineup. He split time last season out of either the 2-hole or the 9-hole. He played majority of the time in the 9-hole. He stole 8 bases there. It'd be more ideal if he was out of that 2-hole. He stole 14 bases from there last season. And in some of the spring training lineups, he has been playing in that 2-hole, but they also have been putting Bobby Witt up there. And I think that if Bobby Witt makes his way up that lineup, I think that's less than ideal, but I still think whether he's at that 9 or 2-hole, this is a team that loves to steal bases. Get on base. I'm kind of in on Nicky Lopez. I know that some people are like, well, it's just kind of a rabbit, and that's just not how I build my roster. And I think that's a fair enough point. But I do think that if you need, someone to steal your bags, I think that I like him. And I think that he has, kind of really good batting average and kind of contact rates to go with that. So I really like him. I'm in on him.
It's funny if you look at his splits, like the first 4 months, he averaged like 2 bags a month. And then all of a sudden, August, 10 steals.
Yeah. Yeah. That is actually crazy. I hadn't noticed that.
Crazy. Yeah. But yeah, he kind of pulled like a Marte there. So he had 8 steals in the first half, 14 in the second half. So, I mean, possible. I mean, if he goes 14-14, then you got 28 bags right there.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, it's definitely possible. Definitely a possible.
It's a reach. Prediction. It's a reach, but we're doing bold,
Yeah.
Predictions, so yeah.
I mean, my next one's kind of bad too. Just like my Rio one. And this is like terrible. I honestly shouldn't even put this on paper, but Tyler Mcgill finishes as the second best fantasy pitcher on the Mets. I had to do
you and Miguel. I know. Yeah.
But my reasoning is going to be horrendous.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So you have DeGrom, who clearly a lot of people are skeptical of. We're not really sure what's going on, how hurt he really is, if he's going to end up just re-injuring his arm and he's going to be out for the season, or what's going to happen there. He is throwing, his velocity has not reached quite what it was last year yet in spring training, but that could obviously be by design too, especially with what he, the stipulations of his arm. I always hear two sides of it. Like some people are like, no, he's healthy, he's fine, like he's throwing, whatever. Some are like, no, I feel like he's destined for Tommy John again, whatever. So let's say DeGrom gets hurt, knock on wood. You have Max Scherzer, really good, right? Then you have Chris Bassett. Love Bassett. I've been touting him all year. But, sometimes these guys who constantly beat out their metrics regress, like we saw with Kyle Hendricks. I don't think it's going to happen with Bassett yet, but it definitely could happen. So like, what if he ends up going the Kyle Hendricks route and ends up with like a 4 or 5 ERA this season? Then you have Carlos Carrasco. Who obviously struggles to stay healthy as well. So let's say he doesn't see a lot of innings, then that sets him back. Taiwan Walker is already not starting in the rotation because he's hurt, and he basically got gassed the end of last season. So I'm basically just eliminating every pitcher, and all that's left is Tyler Mcgill. I do like Mcgill a lot. I really like his fastball. I like his breaking ball. I think he's got a ton of talent. I'm glad that he's going to start the season in the rotation. I'm kind of hoping that he just balls out from the beginning and like the Mets never look back and just let him stick in that rotation and they figure something out with Taiwan Walker. I mean, they're going to need the depth anyway. So I mean, if DeGrom gets hurt, like a lot of people think, if Bassett regresses, if Carrasco doesn't stay on the mound, which is possible, and Taiwan Walker's not even out there yet. So maybe Mcgill can step in and perform really well and end up being the second best pitcher.
It'd be the second best pitcher on the Mets.
It's terrible that I'm relying on injuries for this bold prediction, and some people will probably hate me for it, but I decided to make that one.
I don't think people would hate you for it. I think you just did. It's kind of a roundabout way to make your bold prediction. I mean, I get the injury stuff. I think especially with Carrasco, Walker, and I think to a lesser extent, Max. I guess I've just, living in DC, I think I've learned you can't really go against, Max Scherzer until you really see it fall off, until you can see it with your own eyes. And because I think that just probably just like fuels him. And I am too much of a Bassett hound that I cannot buy into
I love Bassett too.
I can't buy into that. Would you say like a 4 something regression? I refuse to. I do not accept that logic there, Michael.
I just figured it's like I need to do one with a Mets player, fragile rotation. What if everyone just typical Mets fashion goes down?
Okay. All right.
What is your number 9?
So I also will stick with a pitcher here. I'm going to go with, I think that Bailey Ober will finish as a top 30 starting pitcher this season. I'm kind of intrigued by Ober. He was called up last May. He finished the season with a 4.19 ERA, with a 3.82 SIERA, a 120 WHIP, and a 20.3 strikeout minus walk rate. I liked him because he improved throughout the season. He's a little bit of a control pitcher, but also has some kind of swing and miss ability. He had a 5% walk rate last season, which was really good, and it was consistent with his 3.4 mark that he had in the minors. He does have one glaring issue last season, which was he gave up a ton of home runs last season. He had a 1.95 home run per 9. I do think a lot of that is based on the fact that he's a kind of a fastball heavy pitcher, and that was getting hit hard. But he also does have a decent arsenal, and some of his breaking pitches, his slider and his curveball, they have double-digit swinging strike rates. So I think if he can kind of work on his pitch mix, I think that there's enough there in terms of kind of core skills and arsenal. And so I don't know. I like that. I think that if he can figure out, if he can reduce that long ball issue that he has, I think that he can make a big jump. He has a 244 ADP, but like I said, I don't know. I think that he can make the move, and he will end the season as a top 30 starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is his home run per 9 last year was 1.95, and then you just have, like in the minors, it was non-existent. Right. Essentially, he never gave up home runs. So you can look at the XFIP, which shows a better pitcher. But I think the key thing for him and his value, what it could be, is Twins have no rotation. They need innings from him. They need him they're going to use him as much as possible, because right now their number 5 starter is Chris Archer. Right.
Newly signed.
Right. Like, I mean, it's just so I think it's a good call. I mean, young players can always take a step forward. You have no idea how they're going to grow. And who knows, maybe you don't know what they're working on. Like you always have those pitchers that come out of nowhere. Right. And I think he's definitely a young pitcher that has potential and could certainly do that. Okay. My 9 is Dinelson Lamet will become a top 5 closer.
All right. I like it.
So I know I hate Dinelson Lamet. No, I just didn't like him as a starter. But the reasons I didn't like him as a starter is the reason why he's going to be could be a really good closer. Pagan has been a mess apparently right now in spring training. Just does looks. I know you shouldn't look into it, but looks atrocious. So I feel like Lamet is going to get that job. I know they signed Suarez from overseas, but I think Lamet has a solid shot at that. So the reason why I didn't like him as a starter, but I like him as a closer is because he has 2 really good pitches, right? And they're really, really good when he can throw hard.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that as a starter in a long season or even in a shortened season where his velocity was starting to tail off. But if he's coming in 1 inning where he could bump up that velocity and he's got that ridiculous slider to go along with the decent fastball, I mean, I think he could be lights out. Like, just go there and get 3 players out. I feel like he can easily do that night in and night out and could get you a bunch of saves. I mean, I think it's plausible that he ends up coming out of the season as one of the better closers for the entire year. As long as he gets that opportunity, I think he could stay there and really perform really well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that it's when you're kind of taking these spec save shots, in drafts, when you look at the Padres relievers and even on roster resource, it's like they have 5 guys that are designated as the closer. It's just like dart throw. But I do think that you can eliminate, Pagan's just he had, like you said, he hasn't really pitched well. And then it's just like, I don't know. I know for a while people thought it would be like Pierce Johnson. I do still think it's like, I don't really know how that's going to shake out there, but I'm with you that I think I can see some, Dinelson Lamet love, and I could see how he could run away with that. And it's, one of those things where I think that sometimes you can find like it just may work for him. Maybe he works better in the bullpen, than as a starter. And this is just something that he can kind of roll with. I can totally see that. I think that you can take a dart throw on any of those guys, but I like the Lamet call.
Yeah. All right. What was your number 10?
Number 10 is, I think that, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I think that Christian Yelich reverts back to vintage form. And I think that he will end the season. He'll go 35-20. And like I said, I don't know how he's going to do that because he's coming off of 2 down seasons. He's kind of interesting to look at because when you look at, it's like in 2020, he finished with a career worst 205 batting average, right? But he was still able to put up, 12 home runs in 58 games. And then, he was able to up his batting average in 2021, but he had basically no power. And, last season is where you saw, his barrel rate went down to single digits to 7.6%. And prior to that, he had, 3 seasons of double digits worth of barrel rates. And his launch angle was 2.8%. One thing I didn't realize actually about Yelich was he is kind of ground ball heavy. And I didn't ever really realize that, so he's got like a career, I don't have the number off, 50 some odd percent.
55%.
Yeah. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of Vlad Jr. a little bit where, he has ability obviously to hit the ball hard, but it's going to the ground, but he can kind of pull it out enough where he does have big time power. So like I said, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I am too excited to we're so close to opening day that this is like my most, I feel like, optimistic one. And I want him to have a good season. And so I'm going for like a 35-20 season for Yelich.
That would be wild. I mean, people, oh my gosh, what a steal he would be if that's
crazy.
The case, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, obviously it's possible. He's done it. But you're right. I mean, his best season was when he lifted the ball more. And his ground ball rate dropped to 40%. Yeah. And now all of a sudden it's back to 50% the past 2 seasons. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like, is it that hard to figure out? You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Hey, Yelich, start lifting it, please, and let's see what happens. You know?
I don't know. I mean, maybe that he's had some back injuries. I don't know if this has just kind of affected his form or what. And I know that back injuries tend to be they tend to linger a little bit. But I don't know. So he's one of those things like he's had like 3 really strong years. He's just 30. I just don't think that kind of I just don't think that goes away. And I think that it's just there. And if it is just, you gotta lift the ball a little bit more. I don't know. It's just like Vlad, where it's just, you do that and then bam, you can have 35 plus home run season. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how he gets there, but he's done it. He's done it recently. So I'm just going to be like, this is going to be a big 2022 baseball thing that's going to happen this year.
All right. My last one is I put Avicella Garcia will be a top 15 outfielder.
Ooh, top 15. Okay, that is a little bold. I do like Avicella Garcia.
Yeah. So I've been saying I mean again another player that I've been kind of talking about a lot, but yeah, I mean so just looking at last season, I mean he had 262, he had 29 home runs, he had 8 stolen bases. So the guy does everything, right?
Yeah.
And that was 515 plate appearances.
Right.
He's going to play every day in Miami. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. So I think you're getting a player, right, who can do everything across the board. So there's not really a question of will he contribute enough categories to get there. So I think he can. The good thing is he got a little unlucky in batting average last year, hitting 262. His xBA was 278. That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen moving forward, but obviously he should have hit even better last year. So what if we see that average come closer to 280? His power, I feel like there's even a little more power there. Like I feel like if he plays a full season, we see 35 home runs from him. His barrel rate checks out. His max exit velocity checks out. His slugging, his expected slugging is better than what it should have been last year. Even his WOBA, like everything's showing like he got a little unlucky last year. So if he got unlucky last year and he still hit basically 30 home runs with 8 bags and had a good average, can you imagine if he isn't unlucky this year? He has 600 plate appearances, and let's say he gets lucky instead. Like you could see 35 home runs with a 280 average, and he could potentially, because he's done it before, steal you 10 bases as well. So, I mean, that's essentially Teoscar Hernandez.
Do you think that like if he's luckier or is even at average, do you think that then makes up there's a little bit of a downgrade in the park, right? With Miami, but
that would be the only thing. But
yeah.
So, it's bold, so let's pretend it doesn't affect them.
Well, that's why it is bold. I think I have like a bunch of shares of him, and just because it's just that across the board contributor,
he does everything.
Yeah, and
he's definitely very undervalued.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I do think that people think that there is less power because of the park change, and so I think that people have kind of been staying away from them, but I think that maybe they're kind of putting too much emphasis on that, but yeah, I think that across the board I really like him. Like I said, I think he's a really well balanced player. I know that you and I kind of like to build our rosters that way, and so I do think the 35 homer, I think that is a bold call. And he'll be battling 35 home runs with Kristen Yelich, see who gets there.
I mean, so he definitely is going to a worse park, but it's not as much as you think, I would say. Like the Brewers were 14th in terms of like how hitter friendly, whereas the Marlins were 23rd, which is a decent gap, but in terms of like numbers, it's like not that
not big, like a big change. Yeah.
I'm looking at a home run real quick though, because I am curious. So home runs, the Marlins actually are better home run ballpark in the past 3 years than the Berbers, which is interesting. So maybe it can check out. We'll see. But that's according to Baseball Savant as well for those listening. So Avicella Garcia, maybe he could have a nice little breakout and become a top 15 outfielder.
I like it. I like the calls.
All right. So those are all of our old.
We're gonna have to keep like a tally and see how many of those hit.
We should
this off season or this season.
Let's see who has more at the end of the season. I like that. Yeah. Although I pretty confident my Rio one is not going to happen, but
well, you never know. I think it's more likely than your Tyler Mcgill one.
Yeah, that's true too. I hope the Tyler Mcgill one is not right. I hope it is so far wrong.
Yeah.
Because I would love nothing more. I mean, how fun would it be just to see DeGrom, Scherzer healthy all season together on the same team? It'd be honestly the best thing for baseball. It'd be so much fun. Yeah.
I know. I'm with you.
Well, not for you because.
Well, no, you know what? I'm all for baseball. I like I think I like to see it. I think that is a really good one too. It's like one of the best 1-2 punches in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yep. Probably the best one actually. All right. Well, that does it. We will be back next week. Lauren, you are going on a podcast, correct?
I'm going on the Turn 2 pod with Matt Williams tomorrow. Yep.
Nice. All right, cool. And you're going on with, unfortunately, that's thanks for you. I already made a comment about that on Twitter. No, I'm just kidding. We love Mike Curlin. So that'd be really cool. So if you're listening, you haven't checked out Turn 2 podcast, make sure you do. Lauren's going to be on there. It's run by Matt Williams, who is a very, very, very good analyst. Knows underlying metrics as good as anyone, knows them inside and out. He's like light years ahead of me in terms of that. So when it comes to if you're really interested in that stuff, he's the one to listen to. And he also does a really good article, kind of breaking it down, breaking each metric down, how to use them. Really, really good analyst. So make sure you listen to that with Lauren on that. Also, if you enjoy the show, because we always have a lot more listeners than reviews. If you could review us on whatever platform you listen to, we really appreciate that. Whether it be iTunes or Spotify, whatever that is, whatever you listen to.
Yes.
And also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, our Twitch, all that kind of stuff, so you can watch live if you want to. And make sure you join our membership. We have a lot of good stuff going on there. In terms of draft season prep, we have all these kinds of sheets. I'm tracking spring training velocity for the Discord chat, doing all kinds of good stuff there. Also, if you're listening to this, I think tomorrow or sometime this week, we will be having another episode of The Next Pick with Drew and Payton. So make sure you look out for that. Really, really good new show. Yeah. Yes. Dynasty show, prospect show. So that'll be exciting. And then not this Sunday, next Sunday, we'll be debuting On the Bump with Doug, which will be every Sundays about Fab and who to add for the upcoming weeks and stuff like that. So that'll be cool too. So we're going to be coming at you full force pretty soon, 3 episodes a week, hopefully. So that'll be all right. You can follow me on Twitter at SB Streaming. Follow Lauren on Twitter at LK Auerbach. Make sure you do that. And we will see you guys all next week.